right. Welcome back. Day 2 this week. We have Coach Depascale as always, and then we have our special guest today, Coach Zach Naszimento, who is now the offensive line coach at St. Joe's Regional. But before that, I know him when he was a head coach at Weehawken. He was I think you were a coach with your father when you first came out, right? Was Sea Caucus, I think?
Yeah. I was at Sea Caucus for some time, or when I was right out of school.
Right out of school.
Yep.
Played at Cincinnati. Played football there. Was a linebacker there. Really has had a great career as a coach. Was a fantastic football player himself. And we're really excited to talk some football, some Oline with him today. So, Coach, welcome. Great to have you on.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Excited to be here. It's a great opportunity to talk about football, talk about sports, the best.
Coach, talk about, I briefly touched on it, but just for the people who are listening and meeting for the first time, your playing career, where you played, talk about that, how the career was for you at Cincinnati, and then your coaching career and kind of genesis of that, and how getting to where you are now with St. Joe's.
Sure. So I grew up in Sea Caucus. I went to Sea Caucus High School. My dad was a coach forever growing up. My uncle was a coach as well growing up. So football, athletics for me has been part of what we've done since I can remember. So I wanted nothing more than to compete, and whether that was I played hockey, I was on the swim team growing up. I was basketball, baseball, football, anything that you could possibly compete at. My dad would throw a ball out with my brother and my cousins, and it was like survival of the fittest. Truthfully, that's how it was growing up. I mean, I can tell you a number of stories of barbecues at my uncle's house, and that would end always with a fight, or my grandfather screaming at us and my aunt yelling at. I mean, it was constant. So I went to Sea Caucus High School, and then went to the University of Cincinnati. Throughout my high school career, I was lucky to have a lot of really good people around me. I had Coach Fitzgerald, who just passed away, was my high school coach. Billy Fitzgerald's the coach at Seton Hall Prep now. His dad was my high school coach. Coach Voorhees was, who is the coach now, has been there forever, was my defensive coordinator. A number of people, Joe Breslin, who's been around forever. He's at Ramapo, and Coach Albro. A lot of influential people. Coach Anderson was my basketball coach. A lot of people don't realize, but I was a basketball player as well. I love, probably basketball is probably my favorite first love, to be honest with you. I love basketball growing up. But I grew into a football player. That's just the truth. I was, nobody was recruiting a 6'2", 280-pound power forward, really. So anyway, I played offensive line, defensive line. I played linebacker. I played, a number of positions growing up. Even in rec football, I played fullback. I played tight end. I played, I didn't really care where I played. I never was a guy. I didn't care. That's the truth. I really I love to play. So I just wanted to play. If they needed me to play the one technique, I played the one technique. If they wanted me to play tackle, I played tackle. I was recruited by Cincinnati as a defensive end. I went to Cincinnati in 1996. And I don't know if you're familiar with this, but my situation at Cincinnati, I was sick. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's after my freshman year. So I had stage 4 Hodgkin's. Coach Minter was my head coach. It kept me on scholarship, and I finished up my career. But after that, I was still around the program, and it was a very difficult situation for me because football was everything for me. And then at that point, you realize that football is not going to be there forever. So very hard to deal with at 19, 20 years old.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really difficult. But at the same time, it probably made me a better better coach, probably made me slow down a little bit because I would say at that age I was probably not not thinking about too many things. In hindsight, it probably was maybe a blessing in disguise, to be honest with you. And then I came back home and I became a teacher in Union City and started coaching. I coached at, I was a freshman coach. I was a freshman coach, sub-varsity coach at Sea Caucus. For a couple years, I went to Memorial with Brian Cooney for a couple years. That was my first varsity position. I was a linebacker coach. I was a special teams coordinator. I went to Emerson in Union City with Eddie Marinez. I was a defensive coordinator there for a couple years. Then I went with Coach Stinson to Queen of Peace when he left William Patterson at that time.
Yep.
Which was an incredible opportunity for me at that age to be with Coach Stinson and to learn. Learn is a nice way of putting it. Because there was a lot of, it was a great opportunity for me. And then after that, I went to Hackensack with Coach Miello, Coach Stinson as well. And again, another opportunity to kind of, go through, that's what I think a lot of times, a lot of young coaches, really need to probably, I was lucky in some ways to be freshman coach, the sub-varsity coach, the JV coach, the defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, offensive coordinator. It's a process, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a long process. And it's a lot of humility because there's a lot of things that, remember back in the day, we would go take a camera and go video the game, the scout.
Of course.
Yeah. Yes. And then I would come back and put the video on and get yelled at.
Yes, because it wasn't good enough. Because it wasn't good enough.
Right. And what the hell am I looking at?
Absolutely. There, you're shaking. Yeah.
Please. Yeah. I'm looking at,
What were you drunk? Like, what were you drunk?
Right. And, and I'm looking and I'm like, I come back. I'm like, what? I gave up a Friday night. I'm the freshman coach. I got to fill up the water coolers. I got to sit like, what? I don't want to. Don't. I played here. I did this, and no one cares. You know what I mean? So
nobody cares.
No, nobody cares. So I think that part sometimes is a good thing, because when you get to a place, for example, like where I'm at right now, is just it's a blessing. It's an opportunity to be around really good kids and people, and I think you can appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. Yeah,
100%.
That makes sense. Yeah.
No, that makes a ton of sense. Listen, I remember when you were at Weehawken and how you turned that program around, and we were both, and I would say at the beginning at the doldrums, I would say the bottom of the barrel.
No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Building it.
We had some good battles for sure.
Yeah, we did have some good battles, and you were building it up. I was building it up, and I remember people used to just. At first, they all laughed at us taking those programs, but
of course,
the leadership's important, and getting really those kids, and that from growing up, and coaching in Hudson County, and obviously we were pretty close to that area. Those kids need someone to believe in them. You know what I mean? And that's what you did, which was really great, and really built those kids up, and you had some really great players too. So it's. But I see the route you've been going, and now you're coaching obviously at St. Joe's, and obviously you got now you have some guys to start with that are really talented kids to begin with, and you can really build them up and to take them to the next level. What was kind of your thought process after you when you joined St. Joe's? I think you were at DePaul Catholic before that.
I was at DePaul. Yep.
Yep. When from when you were being a head coach, deciding to go and be an assistant and be at some powerful programs like you're at now.
Yeah. So I think that what happens is my time at Weehawken was incredible. I mean, and as your time at Pal Park, I'm sure it's really apples to apples. I mean, I could talk about a number of kids that I've coached at Weehawken that were incredible kids. And, tough kids, and the community was awesome, and we had some really memorable, really awesome experiences there. So that part will never go away. I still talk to a number of those kids, and proud of, I've gone to weddings and so on. So that's really important. For me personally, my kids were getting a little bit older. My daughter was really excelling with basketball. And, I think that, as you get older, I think you kind of like, you have different priorities per se. Yep. And I think being an assistant coach was, kind of where I was at. And at the same time, you want to be around really good people. And, I love football. I just love football, and I love, that's the bond, that's the bond that you have with a lot of people. I mean, so, in football and everything, there's competition. And when you're out there, you want to win. I mean, it's like, there's no easy way out. It's going to be down to the wire. But at the end of the day, there's mutual respect for sure within this profession. So guys I've coached against like you, and we have mutual respect. I mean, it takes a lot of work to do this. I don't care if you coach where you coach. I mean, it's hard to coach. I don't care what sport you're coaching. I mean, it is hard to coach in this day and age. So, when you see other guys coaching, I think you have a mutual respect for sure with it. So, I kind of ended up in this. I pursued this. I actually went to Wayne Valley for a little bit with Roger Cutlars.
Oh, you were okay.
And I learned a lot of good football from Roger. I think Roger is a tremendous coach. And then from there, I was with Bayonne as well. Jay Acero is my buddy I grew up with and did a great job. I was at Bayonne for a little bit, and then he became a principal. So
it's usually how it goes.
Yeah, he moved up, and then I'm very content being an assistant coach. I was not looking to be a head coach. And then I spoke with Nikki, and I went to DePaul, and I was there for 4 years, which was great. Tremendous experience there. Great time there. Great kids and so on. And then this opportunity at St. Joe's came up, and that's just that's life. That's the way life goes. So, but again, a lot of respect for a lot of people I've worked with and so on. But that's where I'm at. And now at St. Joe's, I'm with Augie Hoffman, and football is important, and you're with families and kids that that are committed to it, and it's exciting. It's an exciting time. That's what I think. It's super competitive. No doubt
about it. It's
you are in the highest of the high class when it comes to not only New Jersey football, but on a national level too. That Big North Conference is no joke. What I think a lot of people don't really understand is how many really good high-level schools are within about a rock's throw of each other, and you're all competing for the same dudes, and you're literally. But the best part about the whole thing is, I think, like you were talking about, Coach, the respect factor within each one of, it's not, there's no like animosity or like whatever. Everybody's cool and just understands that we're all trying to do the same thing and support all of the kids at the same time. Right. And I just think that's what's different.
I think that this is what it is. I think that, we play Don Bosco on a Friday night. We want to win. We did not like Don Bosco, right?
Right.
But at the same time, you have tremendous respect for them.
Absolutely.
Dan Sabella, for those guys, and same thing with at Bergen Catholic, with those guys, and St. Peter's Prep. It's winning in this league is not an easy thing. So each game is really hard. I don't care if that team is not as good this year.
Listen, I don't want to hear that shit.
That's insane because every coach that we coach against is good,
Damn right.
and they got kids on the other team that are really good. You know, we played Pope John this year. I don't know what the score was. I know we won pretty big. I forget exactly, but every time that kid, I believe it's Tyreek Hill, touched the ball, I mean, he could score on every play.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't want to hear anything. You know, and that team, I don't know what their record was, but I have a lot of respect for those guys. Those guys are tough. And that goes for everybody we play. I mean, this is not, you know, it's ultra competitive, but I think there's a lot of respect, at least from on my end, because again, I think it's really hard to coach. It's hard to do.
It's hard to do what we do. Yeah,
absolutely.
There's no doubt. And coaching the O-line now, what is it about the O-line that you really, you know, enjoy working?
I love it. You know, I love the coaching the offensive line. That's truthfully my passion. I love it. You know, and I have to say, because, you know, the offensive line is a little different than everything else, right? It's its own little world. It's its own little family. It's its own little, you know, group. You know, it's 5 guys have to be on the same page on every single play. So in terms of, you know, blitz pickup, pass protection, run game, the assignments, there's a whole little world within the game. So, you know, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with this position, which, you know, I embrace. I love it, you know. But it's all about, you know, we talk about toughness a lot. But I think that's a little bit, you know, I don't want to say overrated. I mean, toughness, it starts at toughness. If you're not tough, I don't even know how you're going to compete. So let's just start there. Playing on the O-line, you have to be smart. I would say you have to be smart more than anything.
Right.
So you're tough. You better be tough, because if you're not tough, you're going to just get, you know, you're going to get physically beat up. So you got to be smart. And I think that is it takes a lot of work, right? It takes a lot of work in the film room. It takes a lot of work with the walkthroughs. It takes a lot of work with preparation on my end. And
right.
My coach that I coach with as well, that coaches the offensive line with me, is Doug Lopez. And Doug is a 2-year starter at Penn State. He played center, went to St. Joe's, and he's with me as well. And Doug is awesome. And so he's a huge asset for me. And then obviously Augie is our head coach. Augie, you know, was at Rutgers and played and did everything that he did. So you know,
your head coach is played the position that you coach, you know, like you're still on a, you know, you got a little bit spotlight's on a little bit more than even so, you know what I'm saying?
Like, hey, buddy. The first couple of weeks he'd come around, you know.
Oh yeah, he just does the little kind of like, they do the hover, right? They do the hover.
Wants to see what drill we're working on, you know. And it's like, is this good? You know, I think this is a good
you're
drill,
like,
you know?
Did he say anything? Like, what's going on?
No, Augie will let you know. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, we've been in some situations where he's let us
know.
He'll
write down some stuff and he'll let you know afterwards. But no, my relationship with him is very good, and it's a great working relationship and friendship as well.
Right.
So, you know, I think we have a good group of guys, and to be honest with you, it's a lot of the academic part. I have to be honest. It's a lot of, you know, identifying personnel, identifying different packages the defense will bring in, who their blitzers are, you know, what the frequency is going to be when number 21 is in the game per se, and it's third and medium, third and long, and what our protection should be. And, you know, there's a lot of that, and there's a lot of dealing with the running back, have to also be an extension of the offensive line. So there's a lot of meeting time. There's a lot of walkthrough time. We're in inside run. We're in blitz pickup. But if I have to, like, flip the switch for you during that, then you just probably can't play. Because when we're in inside run, and we tell you, it's a 4-play rack, and we're running power 4 times in a row at the first unit defense, and you're not really ready, then that tells me a lot of what I need to know, because Bergen Catholic is going to be here on Saturday, and I can't find out on Saturday,
Nah, it ain't working like that.
It's not. So I think we have a good, in terms of the process, Sunday is a breakdown day, Monday is a install day, and we, obviously everything now is so different than Dave and I,
there's no more DVDs or VHS tapes, brother.
No, I hear you. And everything's on Huddle, and that's great because, you can put the install on Huddle, and I can check and see who's looking at the slides. We put PowerPoints together, and they have to send stuff back. And, it's probably a lot more of that than people realize.
People have no idea. They really don't.
No, it's a lot of that. Yeah.
Well, especially since now you can prepare more because there's so much accessibility to information, and you can get all the information you need and filtered, and you name it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's awesome. It's actually like cheating. If you
amazing.
Spend the time, and it's a lot of time, it's a lot of tedious time of each week, and starting over and start the preparation over. But I will say this, I think that the kids appreciate that. I think the kids embrace it, and I think the kids appreciate it because when they go out onto the practice field and we do the walkthrough, and we put red jerseys on guys on defense, and we set mic points and do different things, when we get into the game, it's easier. I wouldn't say it's easy, because it's not ever going to be perfect, but it's definitely, there's a lot of communication. You talk about the offensive line, there has to be communication across the board.
Absolutely.
Right.
All 5 guys have to be pointing and talking, and the back has to be included in that. So I think there's a lot, it's a lot of that. And I've learned a ton of football, even being at the pool with Nikki. A lot of football I learned with Nikki. Nikki was tremendous with me, teaching me that stuff. And then with Augie, I think furthering some offensive line stuff as well. I don't think it ever ends. I think that's
absolutely not.
I think that's where some guys get, I know. Listen, I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. And I think that, you have to always be open to finding out new stuff and new drills. And
we were just talking about this yesterday, Dave, right? When we had Coach Rendau on, who was, giving us, a breakdown of, former head coach at Pace recently. We were doing a breakdown of 3-back punt, right? And it was like, we were just breaking it down, and Dave and I were just talking like, hey, we've never used this, and I don't know if we will use it, but shit, it's nice to have in case, right? You talk about being a lifelong learner. Sometimes I think, and I hate to sound like the old head, right? But at this point, I'm pretty much like there, guys, the younger group of coaches that are coming into this, I don't want to say they think they know everything, but they think they know everything. And it's like, hey man, like sometimes you got to go through it. Like you referenced earlier, and you got to take some heat, and you got to, maybe coach something you've never coached before, and do all those things to kind of grow, and then ultimately always continue to grow. Right now, clinic stuff, listening to other coaches. I used to be that guy that would go to a clinic and be like, why am I going to go listen to a high school guy? Like, I don't care about that. When in reality, that's who I should have been listening to, because they're the most on the same page as I am in terms of coaching high school ball and those types of things. I think guys need to continue to be lifelong learners, and you can take something from everything. Even if you'll never use it, at least you can check it off the box,
I agree. There's a ton of listen, you can always learn something. You just have to be open to it. You have to be open to learning it. Now, if it can apply to what you want to do, then you do it. If
it's your bonus, right? Bonus.
Yeah, and if you don't like it, maybe right now, that's fine. Maybe you'll come back to that. But
Correct.
you learned it, and I think that's part of this whole process. And I think also one other thing that we don't talk enough about as coaches sometimes is knowing your kids. I think that, I'm a teacher for 23 years as a teacher, as well, never mind coaching. So, I could tell you a number of stories of students that I've had, and how you got to work with those kids and
100%.
understand where they're coming from and try to meet them somewhere in the middle. And, I think that is a lot of it. I think that's a lot of it. So I could draw up a play, but if that kid doesn't really relate to me or care for me, or we don't have a relationship, I don't think it's really gonna. No, I don't think it's gonna fly. So I think, I think a lot of it is that, and that's what I think that is.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you're constantly teaching, and I think that's one of the things that the parochials in North Jersey have really separated themselves tremendously from the rest of the state as far as talent level that those programs have, and the desire of kids to be a part of that program. As coaches who've obviously coached at the public school, like all of us have too, you can really see the difference as far as the kids that want to go there. It just seems to be like a lot more of the top tier kids do want to go. And part of it is because they want to be, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, they want to be around other kids that are kind of like-minded to what they are, which may not have been a thing. It was a thing definitely when I played and when you played in high school.
Yeah, but not like now, right?
Not like now. Yeah, and not even. It was a little bit of a thing when I was at Powell Park and you were
right.
Walking, but it still wasn't the same, because I remember getting two of my star players came back from parochial schools and ended up being scholarship kids. That's much less the case now. Like, they're really once they're going in that direction, they're committed to really a certain level of play that they expect themselves and competition that they expect. Talk about that you've seen over, obviously coming from public school.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I've been a public school guy forever, up until about 5 years ago, right? So I think the greatest difference when it comes to that is these kids, it's no different than with my daughter in AAU basketball, okay? Yeah. My daughter was in AAU basketball in 6th, 7th grade. She played down in Jersey Cardinals for Kristen Samaji. And then she played up in down
my son actually trained with her in the summer when we go down to LVI.
She's awesome.
She does shooting clinics.
Yeah,
so
she's phenomenal, dude. She's phenomenal.
So Ava played for her, and Rutgers Prep was probably a thought, but then it was far from where we live, Secaucus. So she ended up going to IHA, and she played for AAU.
Listen, not a bad spot, buddy. Not a bad spot for girls hoops. Shit.
She did great experience there, and Tony DeBellis is defensive coordinator at Bergen Catholic, but he runs the NJ Freedom because his daughters all played and so on. So we put her there, and then she went to IHA. And so the reason why I bring that up is because what football now is similar with all these different programs in 6th, 7th grade, 8th grade. That is, in my opinion, what has happened. So now a lot of the kids that come to us or come to DePaul or Bergen or Joe's or Prep or whatever, those kids have played in that kind of environment since 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. Brick City Lions, Silk City, and Bergen Stars, and so on. So those parents, truthfully, have pretty much shown those kids this alternative.
Correct.
And that is kind of the world they live in. So it's not necessarily, about the kids sometimes. I think it's sometimes the parents have put those kids in those situations, which I don't think is a negative thing, but you have to understand that when you do get to high school, it's going to be ultra competitive. Right?
No, you're 100% right.
So it's not the same.
It's not.
It is a level up. Yeah.
It's a level up. And I think that too, just starting to go through this kind of world with my son, who's 9 years old. And you could correct me when I'm wrong. In the old days when we were kids, and even when maybe it was probably changing when Derek was coming up, starting to change, but the everyone just played recreation, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you played recreation ball, you played with your friends, that was fun. You didn't really care if one person was at a much different level than another person. Everything was competitive, but it wasn't like you didn't have anything else that you would think about, really.
No.
But now I've noticed, and I'm dealing with my recreation, like if you're a travel kind of kid or AAU kind of kid and you're playing in recreation, like people are horrified. You know what I mean? Like that person's so much either better or physical. And that's the only way I can put it is their parents are horrified because their kid is at a different stage. It doesn't mean that they won't get to that stage later on.
Absolutely. No doubt.
So and that's the thing that people always forget. Like
Gabe's in it right now, Coach. Like Gabe is in it.
You should go.
Yeah. Well, you're living it right now because he's 9.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're gonna see it. You're gonna see it. And
well, he's already
you,
playing. He already has
you heard
basically done with recreation now because it's gotten to a point where it's
so I have to say this right now. The reason why I brought those 2 people up before was Kristen Samaji and Tony DeBellis, and the reason why I brought them up is because I as a parent, I was very confident in them. I was very content with. I knew they cared about my kid, and I knew that they were going to coach my kid, and I knew that they were going to run their program a certain way. And I think that, put your kid around people that are going to, have the best interest of your kid instead of trying to win, an AAU tournament on a Tuesday night. So that person, I think for my own daughter, that was I'm very happy. I'm very appreciative of the people that coached her in those programs, because you're going to go through it now for sure. So the people are very important.
There's a lot to do it the other way.
A big deal. It's what you brought up is a great point. So it's not just the kids they want to, you want them around. That's part of it. But kids are kids. They'll like who they're around. The people are nice to them. And,
absolutely.
But it really becomes the coaches that they're around and their objective from a development standpoint.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
They'll hold everybody accountable.
Holding people accountable.
Yep.
They'll hold themselves accountable. And I think that's the interesting thing that I'm starting to experience. I've started experiencing. I mean, my wife is no longer going to let me. I'm not allowed to coach recreation anymore because I just got to coach travel because I just get into too much trouble. I don't know.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. Because the travel. When we go to travel, I know what to expect. Like I know, and it's funny because growing up, that was not at all the case. Like I was just like you, I was a recreation person, Yeah. So it's just that the world has changed. Now there are people like you said, which is really important, is that there's some people that go so over the top where they're not focused on the development of the kids. That's the key.
Right.
But you're right. So I think when they get to high school, it's another level, right? You guys are another level, but they've experienced these kind of level jumps, and they're like, okay, is it time for me to take another level jump? Do I want to do that, or attempt to take another level jump and play at a high school that's potentially at a higher level, like St. Joe's, right? And then I think a lot of times the people that obviously have the right approach to it, when they get into your program, because I'm sure there are people that wash out still, but people that come into your program, a lot more of those kids, a higher percentage of those kids are all on the same trajectory, no matter what level they end up at, whether it's D3 or D1, they all want to push the program forward. They want to be the best they can. They want to accomplish as much as they can.
Absolutely.
And I've noticed academically those kids, which that part's changed a lot too. in general, those kids academically seem to be much better students too, because it's just an overall focus on excellence. I mean, I don't know if there's any other way to.
Yeah, I don't. I think you hit it right on the head, because what happens is we have a lot of kids, and a lot of kids I've coached, and some of my, some kids that I have tremendous relationships with, who ended up at Division III programs, who are excelling, who are doing great. Not everybody goes Division I. I think that's a misconception as well. But they work really hard. They're with like-minded kids. They have great grades. They go to a high academic Division III program. They excel. And I think a lot of it is because of the kids that you're around, because they are in study hall together. They are in AP courses together, and I could say the same thing with my daughter. My daughter, going to high school and, doing well academically, going to college, doing well academically. Listen, I gotta be, when I was a kid, we didn't have anything. We had no trainers. We had nothing.
No.
I used to go to the park every day after school, throw my book bag into the house. My mother would say, come home, please
change
come
your
home.
clothes, get out of your school
Something,
clothes.
absolutely. We would go to the park. We play every sport.
Yep.
We play travel basketball. We'd go to Guttenberg. You know what I mean? We'd go to North Bergen. So it wasn't like we were going to Virginia.
Right.
Like it's insane what this has become. So I played in baseball. I played baseball. I played recreation. I played All-Stars, played Sandy Koufax, American Legion.
Right.
If you were really good, you played on the Jersey City Stars of Tomorrow. And there were like 2 kids from Secaucus that played on that. Like that was like really like wow,
Right.
And you had to be asked to do that. So it was, we played
Are those
summer
kids
league
around
basketball.
anymore?
I don't even know. Probably not.
I wondered. Sandy Koufax in American League, and they used to have Mickey Mantle too, right?
Mickey Mantle. We played, but my thing was this: we would play a game. I can remember playing a game like in Miller Stadium in West New York at like 1:00 in the afternoon, right? And then like everybody get in station wagons and cars and drive to Paramus and play like that was like American Legion game, switch uniforms,
right.
And then and that was like a big day, like that was it. And but at the end of the day, there's one thing that I really have to say about all this. We have trainers and we have speed trainers and quarterback trainers and pitching coaches and all this stuff. What happens is, in my opinion, the days of learning how to compete.
Oh.
Because here's the deal, okay? You could tell me nothing. 5:00 on in Secaucus at Buckmiller Park, with the kids from Union City and North Bergen versus the kids from Secaucus, and God forbid we lost, and the fist fight that would take place afterward. It meant nothing. It meant nothing, but it meant everything.
Absolutely.
And that's the part that I get goosebumps now, even like thinking about. But man, it was survival of the fittest to the right down to it, and bragging rights and everything meant that competing. So I didn't have a trainer to show me how to shoot a free throw. I went out and just shot free throws.
Right. Or your old man told you how to shoot a freaking
well,
free
my
throw.
my old man is a whole nother story. So he would bring me to the basketball court and beat the hell out of me.
Right,
and he would tell me, and
in
he
a
would
positive
say,
way, people, in a positive way, not the way we're like, come on now.
No. Yeah, well, it was tough love. He would say,
right.
I would be like in 7th grade, and he'd say, let's go 1-on-1, no fouls. And people would be like, "Oh my God," But
yeah, well, right now he'd be in prison. You know how that works. Like nowadays, I think, and that's something we talk about all the time because we.
And I don't know if it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what it was.
But I mean, I was raised the exact
every kid is different,
like,
too.
Every kid is different. Every parenting, there's manuals on how to do this shit, but there ain't no one way to do it. And I just look at it like this. It's I think you turned out pretty good. You know what I'm saying? So your old man had to do
thank
something.
you, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Look,
My wife would disagree, but
shit, we could say that about all of our wives. You know what I mean? But hey, we also they know what they signed up for. So rock and roll. You know, hey, love you, babe. But like, it is what it is. But I think that's something like, you know, the whole sometimes you got to be a parent instead of being a friend type gig. You know,
sure.
And really sometimes, and that works both ways because, you know, the first thing coming off the field when you get in the car ride home shouldn't be about how you missed a catch or how you made a great catch. It should be where are we going to eat, right? I just think that type of approach.
So let me tell you about my father's approach, okay? So when I would play, my father would stand there with remember those cameras, those big ones on the shoulder, Dave?
Yep.
And this is 1993, 1994, whatever, and he'd stand there and he would video the game and he would videotape just me. Just me. So I was a guard, I was a linebacker or whatever. Hold on one second. You hear that doorbell?
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good.
Hold on one second.
Listen, and I'm assuming, Dave, that coach was raised kind of how we were raised, right? That tough love type of, you know, hey, I just want to push you to kind of do good in everything and whatnot. I think that's kind of, you know, I don't know if it's where we're from, you know what I mean? That has a little bit to do with that.
That's the time. I think parents.
A time thing.
I think parents in that time period also understood what each kid needed. Some needed a kick in the pants. Some could not handle that, and you had to, you know, some were, you know, like my father would do that with me. My brother
totally different, right?
He was so wired to do everything right all the time. You had to almost like, okay, you don't like he was trying to. Everything had to be a record. You know what I mean? Like every time. So.
I'm sorry. I'm back.
No, you're good. You're good.
I want to hear the story. We're excited.
So my dad would videotape just me. My friends would laugh, and so I'm like, can you imagine the game is going on and the video camera would be on the right guard, you know? So the ball would go wherever, but my father would videotape me, and we'd get done. And my father was a coach forever, you know.
Right.
So he says, you know, when we get home, he'd go, yeah, how do you think you played? I say, I don't know. You know, I think I played good. He'd say, he'd put the tape in and he'd go, you're walking. And I'd say, yeah, well, the ball was, you know, it was like Sean Cannon just ran for a 40-yard touchdown. He goes, you're walking. I go, okay, all right, whatever. And then he'd say on defense, you know, I'd go, I'd make a play or it was lazy. And he'd say, it's not enough. It's not enough. And it was never, ever about making a tackle or blocking the guy good. It was never about technique. It was more about your body language or look at your attitude. Look at you walking. Who are you yelling at? Who are you yelling at? Who are you to be yelling? And it was a lot of that. And, you know, it was probably good. You know, it was probably the right approach. It was not really about whether I won or lost or talking about the other teammates or comparing me to anyone else ever. It was more like, you know, you want to play at a high level, this will not cut it. Because my father at that time was coaching at St. Peter's Prep. So he was with Rich Hansen. And
I was going to say, is that Coach Hansen still?
Yeah,
that guy was.
So he was with him for, you know, and that's his good friend, and that's like family anyway. But he would say, listen, I'm just letting you know, this is not going to be good enough. So, you know, in each year he would challenge me with this and that. I remember one time I wore red gloves. I was a sophomore. I was playing offensive line. Remember the Newmans? Those are the
hell yeah!
Those wide receiver gloves. I put those on. My father, after the game, he quotes, "Who are you?" I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're wearing red gloves? Who are you?" He goes, "You better play like you wear red gloves." So it was not.
That was always the comment, right? That was always the line.
My father was hard on me, but it wasn't from a standpoint of, you know, to statistically, I should say. It was, you know, team, be a good teammate, play really
Always.
hard.
Yep.
And, you know, my daughter probably could tell you a lot of things that on the car rides home with my daughter. I usually say a lot of those things. I think that all of those things are more important, in my opinion, than
Absolutely.
the guy. You're going to yell at a guy for dropping a ball. He knows he wants.
He knows he dropped the ball. That's the most.
Right.
I love when I go to these camps or clinics or whatever. And the guy drops the ball. Catch the ball. You think that poor bastard that just dropped that wide open deep ball knows he shouldn't have called? Like, come
absolutely.
on, guys.
Even I have offensive linemen that give up a sack. Right, the kid is going to Tennessee, and my kid's going wherever he's going, and he comes off the field, and I say, no, okay,
you're good.
All right, next play.
Here we go. Exactly.
What am I going to yell? Don't give up the sack. Of course, he knows he doesn't want to give up the sack. So, you got to correct it a little bit, but you got to, keep his head up and keep him moving. I think that's a lot of it.
100%.
I think it's really. I think that's one of the things that's a little bit lost now, and that parents then understood what each kid needed. And I was when you walked away for a couple of seconds, like my father was kind of similar with me, as your father was with you. But my brother, who was like wired to do everything 100 miles an hour all the time, he had to like dial him back, because if it wasn't a record or something, he'd be like in tears. So. I think parents understood that, and
yeah, I think you're right.
It had a feel for like, okay, I could push this person's like this person needs to show a little more effort. Like I know what he can do. Not talking about how many points like you said, points you score, and like what he could do effort wise, how he could carry himself. Like if he just expects more of himself, then he'll be able to be what he wants to be. Like it's one of the things I always say, like after one of the travel games this weekend, my son, game was on the line, down 21-19, shoots the ball from about, he's 9 years old, shoots the ball like a little bit, like got into a quick shot it with no time left, hits the back of the rim, comes out. Okay. And he was crying because obviously we lost 21-19. And I said, awesome. That was awesome. And he said, what was awesome? I said, you took.
Yeah, you shot it. No doubt.
Shot it. Yeah. The ball came in, you shot the ball, right? And that, like, it's more important that you took the opportunity there.
Absolutely.
Without missing it. I said, you keep taking those shots, you're going to miss a lot more of them than you're going to make. But if you make some of them, people are going to look at it and go, gosh, that guy's clutch. You know what I mean? Because that's how it is. It's about taking it. And it's about like, it's being able to carry yourself the right way, the effort, those kind of things are important. And then, as a parent and as a coach, like understanding what each kid needs, just like on the offensive line, like you might have a guy that you need to stay on all the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You always got one.
And then you got a guy that you don't have to ever say anything to.
Right. Right.
It's like, how come you never say anything to him?
So this past year, I mean, I could tell you a lot of, we've had a lot of guys, but this past year, I can tell you, I had a kid, his name is Elijah Diaz. He's probably 6'7", 315, 20 pounds. I was very hard on him. Okay. Let's say that, but he was not ready to play at the level we needed him to play early in the year. But we had some injury and he stepped up and he ended up playing the last 5-6 games. And when I tell you, I can't be any more prouder of him for taking the coaching, taking the instruction. And a lot of it was the academic part of it. It wasn't the toughness part of it or physical part. It was more about getting acclimated in a certain spot. Left tackle, left guard, we weren't sure, and had some injury and different things. But then understanding the protections and the run game and all the different stuff. So he actually did incredible. He's playing his best football at the end of the year. He's going to go to a post grad place, I believe somewhere in Connecticut, and I really think he's going to have a great career. Someone will pick him. He's just kind of like, I think
Trending.
on that. I do think. Now, he would get yelled at every second of the day, all day, and he will tell you that, because there couldn't be he couldn't do one thing right for a lot of time. But at the end of the day, he would walk off the field and he would be very upset with me, and I would say to him, "You're welcome, you're welcome,"
right?
And then he'd go, I go, "You're welcome, you're welcome." And he goes, "Because I will not quit on you. I won't quit on you." And then he'd get, and there's going to be a day, there's going to be a moment when I'm right, And now, it kind of like, but that's parenting, that's coaching, and so on.
Right.
I also had my center, who is in like every honor society, right? Like I always make fun of him. I'm like, how many honor societies are there? You're like in 7. Like I don't, and so he's like, he does nothing wrong. And so the one day we're doing a drill and he goes left, let's say, instead of going right. And everybody always would get it from me, all the time. And but his name is Robbie Stigliano. So he does it wrong. And I said, oh, I blow the whistle. Hey, what are we doing? And he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, coach. I said, "Oh, it's okay. Yeah, it's fine. You just whatever." And then all the other kids were like,
what are we doing?
Whoa, time out. They're like, "Coach, you got to curse at him. You got to curse. That's bullshit."
Yeah.
So I said, so for about 5 minutes, I just cursed at Robbie.
Yeah, you're like, "All right, guys." Coach, I think that's something
because
too,
I could never. I said, "Rob, I'm sorry, but I don't know if I'll get an opportunity again, so I got to keep cursing at you." Okay.
Yeah.
So he starts laughing.
And I tell my guys that too, Coach.
It's
right?
hysterical.
Like, look, if I'm not like on you, or I'm not riding you, or I'm not nitpicking at you, that's when you should get nervous. You know what I mean? When I stop talking to you or I stop coaching you, that's when, some red flags should go up. Like, oh, like, Coach, what do you mean?
Absolutely.
I know I did that wrong. Why didn't he say something? Because a lot of times for these guys, it all comes from a place of love. Like, I care about you so much. I see things that you don't see right now. And I know it's like meeting 101, day one. Look, man, you're not going to like me 90% of the time, but in 5 years, when you're wherever, you're going to look back and say, "You know what? That guy might've been okay." You know what I mean? Like, I appreciate it.
They hated me for sure.
Oh, hell yeah. Because look, and it's how it was with, like, I know some of the coaches that I played for, man, every day it was like, "You gotta be kidding me, dude. Like, are you shitting me? What else can I do? Like, what did I do right today?" You know what I mean? But then you look back and you're like, "You know what? I so appreciated that stuff when it came to it. It made me a better player. It made me a better human being, a dad, all that kind of shit." It all factored in. So get nervous if your coaches aren't on you, fellas. Like,
I also think that I agree 100%. I mean, my son is with me every day.
He's the best GA in the country, dude.
He's the best. So Zachary, I think that's also helped me as a coach as well, to try to understand, when to pull back a little bit, right, as a parent, and understand that we are educators more than anything, because I'm a high school football coach. It's not, I'm not coaching the Giants. I'm not making $15 million a year. So
it'd be nice, but
yeah, that would be great. But I love what I do, and I think that always has to be the most important part. And I think as you get older and your kids get older and you get a little bit, different experiences, I think it does help me, I should say, personally, it has helped me as a coach. I think it's, because I think when I was younger, for sure, it was not much of a line. I think I would definitely push it for sure. And I think that's, I think I'm getting old. I think I'm getting
we're
older.
all getting there. I mean, and Dave, I have a, she's 19 months today, right? So kind of fresh, whatever. Like, I had a kid, like, I saw and I knew it would be coming, right? Like that transition of like when you have a child to now how you kind of approach certain things or just
things
go about
change for
everything.
sure.
100%. And Dave doubles down on that too. You know what I mean? When he had his son and now, you know, seeing it through the youth process of some of the shit that he goes through, dude. I told him his next book needs to be, you know, youth sports and having a kid through it, right? Like the process of it, because you know, it's a lot. It's a lot, but we've all changed
when I get to the end.
Yeah.
And if I survive, who knows if I will. It's, you know, I really, it's, your perspective is really great. You know, especially, you know, your experience, like, you know, you were a fantastic athlete yourself. You a fantastic player. You have that perspective. You're an educator, a teacher. You've been a head coach. You've been an assistant coach. You really have a great perspective. And I always, because I'm the son of a coach, just like you are.
Yep.
And Derek is as well. And it's like you have kind of a different perspective. Because you saw your father coach other people and coach you, and it kind of puts you in a different perspective on things.
You're like, dude.
Yes. So, you know, it's yes. I remember this running track. I remember this in high school, and there, just like your story is so funny. Like my father would coach me in track. And football was obviously what I really loved. Track, I liked track a lot, but I didn't love it like I did football. And he was the track coach. And my father, he still coaches today. He's 84.
Yeah.
It's insane. Still going, dude.
Loves track, right? That's everything.
It's awesome.
So it is. It's awesome. So we would get in, and he always, you know, had me do all these events, and he would push on me and be all over me. And we had a sprinter. I was our hurdler, jumper, and we had a kid who was a really good 100-meter dash kid. And this is, of course, the early 90s. He had long hair, okay? I mean, long hair, like long blonde hair. He smoked cigarettes. I'm not kidding. He was great, too. He smoked cigarettes, all right? And we used to call it, his last name was Barry. We used to call it the Barry Shuffle, because after, you know, we have to jog a lap after practice to cool down. His lap was so slow. I mean, like, you might as well walk it. You know what I mean? So it was so slow. And my father would never say anything to him because he was the glory guy, because he was the 100, 200-meter guy. And I'd be getting rid on all that. And I'd be like, how come you never say anything to him?
Well, because Barry's probably 30, smokes cigarettes, and has a motorcycle outside. Probably. But that was peak. That's 1992. That's it. Yeah. That's like what it was, man. Burnouts with the guys that I would hang out with and play ball with were, you know, it was a different world, man. It was different. It was rough.
It was a different era. Yeah, there's no doubt. It's so funny when he picked me up with his car and he have girls. And
it's incredible.
Smoking heaters like a champ.
No doubt.
So Derek, my coaches smoked my safeties when I was a safety the first 3 years of high school. And the guy who coached the safety, our athletic director, Mario Alia, I mean, he was smoking cigarettes on the field, you know.
I mean, look, I look at it too. Like
when I was in rec, I played rec. My coach Walrab, would smoke cigarettes while we played. I was like 6th grade. He would call me Naszimento with an M. I was definitely afraid to say, Coach, it's Naszimento.
Yeah, hell no, you weren't correcting that shit.
Shut up, Naszimento. Go over there. I mean, it was insane. It's crazy.
Well, look, I know you look back at those things too. Like, you know, even in college, you know, I'd be freaking getting down to rush a punt or something, and my hand would go into a freaking pile of dip or Red Man that, you know, my DC had just launched into the ground. You're like, dude, can we get some pouches or something?
Now you'd be, you know,
bro. Oh yeah, different world.
Lawsuits and
different world, you know. Those were the days too of like, hey, you guys aren't doing shit right. That means you're not getting water for practice. Like,
listen,
no water.
My coach is Coach Fitzgerald. You know, I had one of my buddies, Patty Maxwell, was one of the captains in high school. He would drive. He had a Ninja motorcycle, and he would drive his Ninja motorcycle to practice. And we'd be all standing on the field for captain's practice. Remember captain's practice?
Oh, yeah, because you weren't allowed to see your guys till August.
Right. Meanwhile, Coach Fitz was in the bleachers and walking around the weight room, whatever. But he would be like, I'd say, hey, Coach, there's Patty. He'd say, oh my God, this kid! Like they would never get yelled at because he was like they were like scared of him. It was like a different world, man. It was
Totally
just
different world.
different.
It was almost like they
world.
admired their rebelliousness, like
Right.
that. You know?
It was almost like, well, we have an edge. You know,
Yeah,
I guess we have an edge.
Well, he gets off the bus first. You know what I mean? Like
Full
maybe
beard.
we can have him ride his ninja through his name. If he rolls up with that,
he would actually drive with his football helmet on.
Right, he didn't need a helmet.
It was insane.
There's Hudson County, buddy.
That era was the Bad News Bears era, like when the guy Kelly would drive up on a motorcycle at 12 years old.
Yep. Drinking beer on the mountain.
Drinking a beer.
And I laugh because I know the way we came up and the way, and you know, it's so crazy. And then, you know, like you with your son, you're doing everything that way, like I did with my daughter. Right.
Yep.
And I talked to my buddy just actually not too long ago that I grew up with, and we laughed. We're like, could you imagine we had like trainers and like speed coaches and
Coach, even the access to like be able to go on YouTube and pull up drills and do all that, or just watch tape. You know what I mean? Like that. I used to like ask to be excused from phys ed so I could go in the office and watch tape. Right? Like
we would legitimately
millimeter days, the 60 mil. Did you now? What year did you graduate high school?
96. 95 was my last
video by then.
We had VHS,
Yeah, you had VHS.
My first highlight tape as a junior was on VHS.
VHS,
I was my high school years. This is funny. And Derek heard this, I think, once or twice. I've mentioned this before. In my seat, all the way from the time I was freshman senior, we watched everything with 60 millimeter. Now in the early 90s, college coaches had switched to VHS like 91 and 90, 91, 92. But we still had 16 millimeter. Okay. And in order for me to get recruited, it was impossible to make copies of those. You had to go to a place.
Yeah, like a facility. Who did we have on, Dave, that talked about it? Was it Coach? Who was talking about it? Patterson Catholic. Remember, Coach was talking about it. He's like,
Benji was from that era too,
right?
But it was yes. When me and Benji used to exchange film when I first became the head coach at Saddlebrook, and then when I was an assistant early on, we everything was video. But when Benji probably is maybe a little older than me, so he was definitely probably that era. But the funny part was when I was getting recruited, we didn't know what to do because you couldn't make copies fast enough, and now people were starting to send out film. So one of the parents, I was the tailback, my fullback, his parents filmed all the games on VHS up in the stands.
Yeah,
and we had to take a couple of those games, which mostly was following the game, but he was still following his son most of the time.
Right, yeah.
Luckily, his son was blocking for me most of the time, so we were able to send it out.
So you're together.
And look, there was no highlight, shadow, spot, circle, or arrow. There was no tight shot from the end zone, dude. Like, we're not working.
There was no highlights, which was an important thing that's different than now. Because,
it was just game tape.
Well, listen, if they saw something on game tape that
they would come, then they would come
and check you. If they didn't like,
they would come see you.
Walking. If you what your father was doing with you was really preparing, because back then they watched the whole film. So if they saw you and the play went away and you were walking around or you weren't chasing, like you wouldn't know why that school wasn't recruiting anymore. But knowing what I know now and everything, that was the reason why. Like they didn't like something they saw, not about your touchdowns.
He would tell me, he would say, you don't get a second chance. There are no second chances. So you don't know when your chance will come. So you better be ready for it. And there's no second chance. So it is what it is. You know, that guy's here. Somebody might be in the stands. And if they don't know you, they better know you when they leave. They better know who you are when they leave. So that's what he used to say to me all the time. He would say, my number was 58. He said, if they don't know who 58 is, when they walk in, they better know who 58 is when they leave. And that's what he would say. because back then a lot of it was, again, word of mouth, and a lot of it was reputation, and a lot of it was, you know, you got to do it. And then if you do it, whatever that meant, that might get someone talking, and they might come in and see you.
And it was always too, for us, it was okay. When the other, like, I know for me personally, like when an opposing coach, right, would see you after a game when you're shaking hands or whatever and say, hey, two, you're a hell of a player, or hey, two, we prepared for you all week. Hey, if you need anything, right, like, that guy, right, because whether it was they might have a guy who's getting looked at by so-and-so or whatever, like, make sure that opposing coach mentions your name when it comes down to it, right? And that goes back to the whole, look, like, in the Big North itself, like, hey, man, like, watching a tape of a Big North game, you guys playing prep or you guys playing somebody, like, how these guys don't watch both teams in terms of, okay. Because
I know every kid we're playing against. I know every
100%.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? If somebody called and asked me about a kid from St. Peter's Prep, I mean, I would know him. I mean, because
you're like, oh yeah, he gave us fits, right? Or oh shit, we made sure we knew where he was. You know what I mean? Like, that's the stuff that I think is.
I just saw yesterday. There's the defensive end from Bergen Catholic is committed to Tennessee.
Yep.
So now, like, okay, here we go. I know who he is.
Yeah.
Now it's like, here's the next, really good player, and Don Bosco has a few kids going on the offensive line, and so you're up on it, because you kind of see it, and
now question real quick, when you were at Secaucus, right? They were, what size school was it?
Group 1.
You were you were a Group 1 guy just like I was, because I was Butler, Morris County, right? And Dave was a Group 1, at Saddlebrook, so so was it difficult? I mean, in terms of, were there coaches at that level? Because, Cincinnati's big time ball. I don't care any way you want to spin it. Were there coaches or were there guys that were from Secaucus previous that had gone somewhere? Or
when I was in high school
there?
Yeah, I think we had when I was in high school for years, my freshman year, I played varsity as a freshman. I was all conference as a freshman, but that team was 7-0 with 7 shutouts.
Right.
And then they had an issue because a kid that was transferred in, he played 4 years somewhere else, and they didn't know back then. It was whatever, it was 1992, whatever. And so they were good, but we had kids. Kid Alex Rodriguez was a really good player. He went to San Jose State.
Wow, you went all the way over there back then. That's wild.
So what I mean is, in like Ray Lucas played at Harrison.
That's right. Yep.
So like during that time, like it was Jason Miletic was a Pal Park guy. He went to Cincinnati. He was a little older than me, but during that time, it was not like now.
Okay. I didn't want to. That's kind of what I was like getting.
Yeah.
To,
No. It was. My dad coached at St. Peter's Prep. St. Peter's Prep, for the most part, was made up of a lot of guys from, Bayonne, Jersey City, North Bergen, for the most part like that. And, I think the Catholic schools were more like regionalized areas. And
100%. It's not like
it's totally crazy now. But
we're Central Jersey, and there's guys going like you're getting 5 of them. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Because to Montvale, think of that. So. No, back then it was awesome. I mean, we played Rutherford in front of like 4,000, 5,000 people on Thanksgiving. Right. Vinny Sasso scoring a touchdown. Six tying them.
That's
6-6.
when you had.
Like, it's awesome. It was awesome.
Right? Like
Lyndhurst,
and all that shit. Oh, 100%.
We would play Lyndhurst on Thanksgiving. Vinny Sala from Lyndhurst scoring touchdowns, and then afterwards everybody go have Thanksgiving dinner, and that night go have a fist fight with everybody on Ridge Road, So it was like, I don't know. I'm not telling you it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's what
you're just saying what it is. You're just saying
right.
That's how it was. That's
true.
Hackensack Teaneck was like a huge, it
was awesome. It was great. It was, you can't, I'm not going to say it wasn't.
And all that shit.
North Arlington was awesome at that time, North Arlington.
It was a
You see, and
different
right, and I was fortunate enough at Butler, like that was there. You know what I'm
Butler was
saying? Like,
great, yeah.
Butler's that's still there. At Butler.
Very good. Butler's still good.
But Dave, listen, you've experienced it now, and you understand why it still is, because it's, we talk about it. It's geographically separate from kinds of stuff. It's still like, that old school, like this matters at a group one, and this is really all that matters at a group one.
Yeah, it's great.
The town hasn't changed that much.
Group one football from, and even before when I was in high school, like in the 80s, when I was a kid growing up, like group one and group two football was a big deal in every town. It really was. Yeah. Like to see Caucus was a powerhouse. All of those, like our league that I played was the BPSL, which back then had Passaic Tech, Patterson Catholic. It had Hawthorne, Garb. Everybody was in the same.
Yeah, and you had 50, 60 kids on every team.
And every team had even if they did, and even if they had 30 kids, you knew you were going to have those 30 kids, right? And they were going to be like hard-nosed kids. Whether you won or lost, it was going to be like everything was going to be a battle. And everybody had a player on their team. Like,
right.
Yep. It was a small school. It wasn't now, and me and Coach coached in the era as it was really changing, right? Like we had to rebuild these places that used to have better stuff, right? So we had to rebuild it. And but I'm sure Coach got the sense of this. I got the sense of it, like even though we had a lot of success, I always felt like it could go right back to where it was. Yeah. If someone came in after me that wasn't into it the same way. Same thing with you. Like if they weren't into it the same way that you were, it wasn't like when I grew up that if a high school coach left, the next guy in
was still going to be all right.
Still able to do it. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah, and it's definitely not like that.
No, in the 80s and 90s when Saddlebrook actually had a lot of turnover in the 80s and 90s, but every guy still
had some form of success
until small school stuff really started to change, which is probably when you were in high school.
Right when I was in high school, that's when you started to see
powerhouse.
But you started to see like
Caucus was still powerhouse, but it was starting to change. It was.
I think the first realization that all of that stuff was really starting to like really, really happen was when Patterson Catholic closed, because they were a powerhouse, right? Winning games, doing all that kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden there was no more program, and you're like, whoa. Like that's an issue, right? And then you started to see the let's co-op, right? Like I remember when Midland Park killed their program, it was like, whoa, like, oh shit. And that was from me being in, Morris County, understanding like, oh shit, like things are changing here.
Like believe it or not, Powell Park, which Coach talks about in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, they was
very good.
State champs.
They were very good,
championship.
Tremendous,
And then
and they were tough as nails, those kids. We played, I remember playing them. I was a freshman, sophomore. I mean, they were good. I think the coach was Tom Paglione. Is that right? Did I say that right?
Yes.
Tommy now, Paglione. Do you think, Coach, that a lot of the change within that stuff?
No, you know what it was? Babe Mongilia.
Okay. And
Babe then Paglione came in, I think he might
95,
have been
90.
assistant. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think because the just the socioeconomics of the towns are changing, that has a factor into like say, why Secaucus isn't that same what they used to be? Or do you think it's more of like that push to, hey, the best player from Secaucus is going to go to St. Peter's?
I think it's a combination, truthfully. Because at the end of the day, I think kids are kids, and I think that regardless of the, dynamic and of what it's made up of, demographic, I don't, kids are kids. If you teach them how to down block a 3 technique, they'll do it, regardless of what nationality they are, whatever. But I do also think that
that's a great point.
Now you filter in, the Bergen Stars have a team,
the opportunity, right? Like those AAU football programs that are now I really think that a lot of times that
a lot of people think like the Catholic schools are stealing the kids or taking the kids. The truth is that a lot of times the parent
they come to
is
you
calling me. Yeah,
and that's what I tried to explain.
and that's the truth. That's the truth.
What, and that
just
was
like I did with my own daughter.
Right,
so,
but that was
yeah,
the biggest. That was the biggest eye opener for me. You know, when I got to Depascale in 2012, was hey, I've always been a public school guy. Like, I don't know how to now go and get those middle school kids to come. And, you know, it was, dude, you put on your polo and you show up to a middle school game, and that's all you have to do. Like, they'll come to you, and then we can go through it.
A lot of times, I don't even know, you know, like, there's just a lot of, it's a lot of parents. That's the truth. So you're trying to deal with them because you're trying to deal with, like, you know, I don't even know your kid. Is your kid good? You know, and the parent is like, oh, it's really good.
And you're like, okay, well,
we'll look at him, you know, I guess.
Okay, thanks. All right.
And then you were like, wow, this kid is really good. And then, you know, mom tells us that they're going to go to 4 other schools too. And we're like, okay, well, you know, so it's a lot of, that's the truth.
Yeah,
that's the truth. So the parents, and I don't think I really fault the parent either, because I'm a parent.
You've been there. And your daughter was on that level.
No doubt.
Right?
So I was very, like, defensive of my own kid. So I don't necessarily, you know, blame them per se.
100%.
You know,
I say it to Dave all the time. You know, like I say that to Dave, you know, all the time. Like, it's hard because look, like, you're a parent. You obviously, you know, it's hard to take that step back and be like, yeah, my kid's not good. Who says that? You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, I get there's a line of, like, reality of, like, hey, my kid's not going to Alabama, but, you know, you never want to tell, like, hey, you're a D3 player. Like, those guys take that and it's like, oh, okay, you know, what are you saying about my kid? It's like, I'm not saying anything about your kid.
I got to tell you, you know, like, I'll tell you another thing. Like, I laugh because they say, even with Division III, like, you know,
they don't get that. They don't understand that.
You know how hard it is to play Division III.
We talk about it all the time. Like, you're still only 7% of high school football players that get to play at that next level.
Really hard.
And I don't know if it's because I was a D3 player when I finished my career and whatnot, and I just know, like, you know, I played with guys that were way better at Montclair State than I did when I was at Sacred Heart. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many outside factors that go into that.
The NEC during the time period, the NEC was bad.
Yeah, we probably would have beat UConn. Take it easy, buddy. Like,
no, you know, you lost by 70. Let's
I don't know.
We played Central Connecticut. We were drinking water at the end of the first period on the bench. As the guy
That's all right. Well, listen, we're good.
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, what I was going to say is, no, I think you're 100% right. And from a parent standpoint, and I think Derek will, as he gets older, depending on what his daughter does,
swim.
As you experience it, one of the things that is interesting, I think the point about being you're defensive of your children in a sense that there are, because parents understand that there's a lot of angling that goes on, and for people who are not as good, right? So right. So you're in a situation, and some people are really good at. I say this, like, they're really good at angling.
Really good, yeah.
Really good. Like, I got like their kid isn't good, but they
are
on a credit of being great at angling. So you see your kid, you see that happening, and you're like, well, hold on, like I'd like to speak to the coach as myself a coach and say, hey, this is what you want to say, hey, this is what my kid does well, and this is, this is what he's got to work on or she has to work on.
Sure.
And you're thinking about it from yourself as a coach, how you would look at it. But you got parents who are great at angling who are just selling pure roses, and you're like, okay, well, I think my kid belongs here, but you don't, you're trying, and then all of a sudden you get a little defensive because you're like, well, wait a minute, like, I don't want to have to take a stance on this, but here's a stance. This is the truth. Like, this is the truth here. Like, this person.
So I will say this. I'm going to say that goes back again to putting your kid around someone that is really going to be objective, really going to be,
right.
Some people don't like Augie Hoffman, right?
No shit.
Because why? I mean, Augie's not really going to play a lot of games.
Yep. He's not gonna beat around the bush. He's not gonna tell you just what you want to hear.
Exactly.
He's gonna tell you the truth. And unfortunately, and we see it more times than not, that we become the quote unquote bad guys for having to tell the truth because they've been yes manned their entire life. Or hey,
or it's
your
kid's
the greatest because
and now it's not working.
Right. Or hey, this kid trains with me. I'm hoping he books another 10 sessions.
No doubt.
Tell him whatever.
Absolutely.
Like you said, angry.
No doubt.
Right.
So I think it's really important to put your kid around someone that's going to be objective. So I think that's going to have your kid that's best interest at heart. Maybe not your best interest at heart, but your kid's best interest at heart. Yep. And I think a lot of parents sometimes can't handle that truth.
Hell no.
It's not about them, know. And Coach Stinson would say all the time, and he would actually say this in front of the parents, and he would say, "I don't coach you, I coach your children. So I am going to do right by your children."
I don't care that you were a first-team All-Stater, or I don't care if you never played this sport in your life. I don't care how good at Madden you are. Shit.
Right. And even me as a parent, I think I talked to Steve Silver, who's the head coach at IHA. I maybe talked to Steve Silver 2 times in 4 years. And one of them was I called him to ask him where I can get the pregame meal from, like catered from. Yeah. And then the other time was he was having an issue with my daughter. Not an issue, but I wanted him to coach her harder.
Yeah.
So, I wanted him to curse at her or yell at her or get on her. Yes. It's okay. Yes. I'm calling you to tell you
have the green light.
Do what you want. My daughter doesn't even know this, so my daughter might see this episode and be like, "Oh my God,"
Dad, you did that? You're like,
But I did. My wife was like, "You never talk to him." I said, I never ever call the coach ever. Let it be.
Right.
But I was like, hey, Steve, you can get on her. You need to. You really need to. She's walking.
Can you do me a favor and you get on her? So
no doubt. So and it must have ended up working out because they had a great senior year and so on. But whatever. I think a lot of it is it's hard to be a parent and it's hard to let your kid just be a kid. It's hard.
Especially now.
The coach is going to know what they're doing. Like your son is playing on the offensive line. He's bench pressing, let's say, 150 pounds, right? I can't put you against a kid who's going to Tennessee.
Right.
Because that kid is bench pressing 330 pounds for reps.
Right.
That's not me being a jerk. That's just the truth.
Because when that hospital bill comes,
correct.
I'm sorry, right?
And
that's the biggest thing for me.
And we'll get him there. It might not happen when you want, but he'll be there. We'll get him there.
Yes. Yeah.
Trust
it, right?
Because it's a process. It is a process.
World, but it's an impatient world, They want everything now. They need to see all those bells and whistles. And hey,
no doubt.
If you just put your head down, get to work, I promise you'll get there. Trust me as the coach, right? Let me do my job.
No, okay? I know. And a lot of them don't want to do that. They want to have their trainers who they pay.
Right.
And I have a lot of friends who are trainers and they're great at it. But that is specific. That's a training session. Coaching is a process. It's through months of weight room, summer process, condition. It's a relationships. It's a lot. So I don't knock it. It's just that it's 2 separate things, I think.
2 separate worlds.
100%.
Coach, it's been great having you on. You're the best.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, this has been pretty good, man. I kind of enjoyed this.
Listen, I've been nagging the shit out of you for years. So
no, it's been great. I've just been We've had a million things going on, and
Coach, believe me, you're good. I just appreciate you. I'm glad we found some time. Thank God for, an HVAC update. Otherwise I don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I told the
Guy's
guy
still
on the
outside.
podcast,
You're like, hey, buddy, I'm just doing some shit. Come
cares?
in, yeah, beers in the fridge.
It works.
If you need it. Thanks,
So
Coach.
if you,
appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, stay in touch, man. I
Always.
appreciate you guys having me on.
Anytime.
No doubt, Coach. Have a great day.
See you guys.
Take care, buddy.
Bye. All right, that was phenomenal. Cool, man. Let's close it out because I got to run to the.
Yeah, you got to go do your other one. Yep, you're good.